We got Dave Gladish in the house. He's, of course, a board-certified attorney. We're talking about a case out of, what is it, Ohio?
Ohio.
Ohio, where the
Oh, no, that was Maryland. I have an Ohio
Maryland,
case
yeah,
next.
Maryland, where the priest
It's not a
denied,
case. It's not a case.
the priest denied the openly lesbian woman communion. He said, "I'm not giving it to you," and I had never even thought about it, but I mean, obviously, the Catholic Church frowns on the same-sex lifestyle, but I've never heard of anybody denying it.
But it also says that as it relates to the information provided in the article, this was somebody in a committed 19-year relationship.
Why is that a factor?
Well, we're seeing more and more where state legislatures are passing laws allowing for either civil unions and or gay marriage. So it depends upon the state, but Illinois has civil unions, so right across the state border here, we have a situation where people that are homosexual are going to be able to marry. So, or at least have something that's akin to a marriage, which allows for certain rights, which include the right to inherit, the right to have insurance, the right to seek and provide for loved ones' medical wishes if they're unable to do it for themselves. So there are changes across the nation as it relates to this issue. That's why I brought it up. You know, I'm not giving an opinion one side or the other as to whether it's right or wrong, just putting the information out there and let the callers discuss it.
219-845-1100, 219-845-1100. We just have it's actually kind of odd that you mentioned that because our own Des Alicea, who does a great job with the news here in the morning, Maryland's governor is expected to sign a bill today to legalize same-sex marriage in Maryland. Under the legislation, gay marriages couldn't be performed until January 2013. The law is expected to be petitioned for referendum in November. So it's, I guess, a hot topic in Maryland. Maybe that's why it's.
That's awesome that he pulled that up.
He's on the ball, man.
He's on the ball.
We got a lot of talent in the building. A lot of talent on the phone. Hey, Dan, what's up?
Hey, I knew these. I don't know them, but I was listening to this thing where these two lesbian couple married went into a church, and the church had a raffle, and the raffle was if you are married, you can win this raffle and go on vacation or whatever. And so they bought a ticket, and they won. And they gave them the ticket, but they gave them the ticket, but they didn't want to give them the ticket, and they wanted the ticket back because in their eyes, they weren't married. So it says it's between a man and a woman. He goes, no, we're married. And it doesn't say nothing on that ticket that you had to be a man or a woman. It says married couple. And they just went to court and stuff, and the ruling was they got married in a different state, but they won a ticket where it ain't legal. So I just want to know what you thought about all that.
All right, thanks a lot, Gladish.
There's the issues amongst the states that we give full faith and credit to legal decisions and determinations in other states. So normally if you're married in one state, you're married in all states. But now we have the state of Indiana as one of them that does not recognize the civil unions. So it's a situation where this is a fluid, I guess, legislative as well as case law argument that's going on right now. I don't think that there's been any definitive case law that I've seen in the state of Indiana as to whether or not somebody's challenged their ability to have their marriage in another state recognized in this state. I don't know if there's any laws that have been put forth yet. I know they've sought to have those laws put in place where they're not recognizing them, but that's a question that's out there.
219-845-1100. Let's move on. Dave Gladish, what else you got on the docket?
The next one is guns. We all were just brought to our attention about juvenile violence. I always try to bring this up so everyone's up to date as to what's going on with these terrible instances where, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, that kids are becoming much more violent than ever before. And the issue in this instance is whether the owner of the handgun used by the young man in Ohio that resulted in the deaths of 3 of his students and also 2 other students in the school were also injured as a result of being shot. It seems that the 17-year-old sophomore who confessed to the killings and was caught, I think, blocks away from the school, who is now going to be probably charged as an adult and faces a sentence of life in prison. He took his uncle's .22 caliber target pistol. His uncle had bought it in August of 2010, and the issue is, should he face charges for not having a gun lock on it, storing the ammunition separate from the gun? There are currently 28 states that have laws in place that can have the owner of guns subject to liability based upon making that gun available because they didn't lock it up, because they didn't have a gun lock. In Ohio, however, they do not have such a law in place, so the uncle will probably not be held accountable for the actions of his nephew, even though he basically didn't tell him he could have the gun, but by not locking it up, allowed access to it.
So in other words, in 28 states, if you don't store it correctly, you are open to prosecution.
Well, it says liability, so I've not researched all 28 states. So liability, I'm taking it to mean one of two things. One, you can have civil liability, meaning that you're subject to a judgment, meaning that you're going to have to pay compensation for the individuals that were injured as a result of your failure. Or two, liability could also mean and/or a criminal penalty where you could face potentially jail time as well as a monetary fine. So I guess it doesn't break it down as to what states have what, but I'd imagine in both instances there is exposure. And the question is, do the states want to have a tough gun law, or is it more of a liberal law? It all depends on the state. So,
You know, what we're talking about is the case in Ohio of, I forget the young man's name, the sophomore,
T.J. Lane.
Lane. Mr. Lane just
And
walked
it is going to
in.
be Mr. Lane because he is going to be charged as an adult.
Yeah, he just walked in and evidently had some sort of cold stare on his face, and they don't even think he was doing drugs or anything. He just started shooting at random, and whoever was close, he shot him.
I think he walked up to the lunch table and shot somebody right in the chest.
Right in the chest, and then after that it was random. Perhaps that one was targeted, and then he was shooting randomly, is how I saw it. And sometimes these guys do this, and then they're in this, like the guy who shot the congresswoman in Arizona. He didn't show any remorse or anything. Evidently, this guy
Smiled. He smiled at his mugshot.
Yeah, smiled in his mugshot. That guy, he's got problems, though. I'm sorry. But evidently, this kid after it was like, God, I don't know what I was thinking. He's already saying he's sorry. But too late now. It's a very sad situation. Now the uncle, if he had the gun, the ammunition in the gun, and it was sitting in his nightstand, and the kid just came and took it, yeah, I don't know, man. You gotta think about that. Is there some culpability there? What do you
Well,
think?
I would say yes. Of course, you got culpability because of the fact that you've got a situation where, we all owe a duty, and the issue for negligence is, do we owe a duty? That means, is there somebody out there that we've got to act in a certain way towards? And I would say yes. If you have a gun and it is a dangerous instrumentality, and you allow a juvenile access to that dangerous instrumentality, and somebody's injured as a result of your failure to secure it, that is basically a classic sign of negligence in this instance. Now, whether or not there should be a criminal penalty is going to be something for each state legislature to make a determination about.